Well, do you get the point? You don't. Well, what she poured out on him came back on her. It was a blessing to him. But wherever she went, that fragrance was there, and she'd go past with, oh, that's the most, like you say, oh, that's Chanel, or that's something else. You say, that's the most amazing, the most aromatic, pungent, powerful, beautiful, costly ointment in the world. I wonder where that woman got that ointment. She poured it out on him. It came back on her. That's why there's a twofold attitude in prayer. One is pouring out, even if you use prayer to that degree. And then there's a waiting until the dew drops. The dew falls. And I remind you again, dew never falls on a windy morning. God said he would be as the dew unto Israel, and the dew only drops when there is stillness. The old Quaker poet, John Greenleaf Whittier, wrote that lovely hymn, Dear Lord and Master of mankind, forgive our foolish ways. We ought to sing it every day, and they ought to sing that in the government. Forgive our foolish ways. But the last stanza says, drop thy still dews of quietness till all our strivings cease. Take from our souls the strain and stress, and let our ordered lives confess the beauty of thy peace. Breathe through the heats of our desire thy fullness and thy balm. Let sense be dumb, let flesh retire. Speak through the earthquake, the wind, or the fire, or the still small voice of calm. Or this old hymn, an old English hymn, Frida Hanbury Allen wrote this. It's beautiful. Within the veil. You know, when you go into the secret place, the Holy of Holies, when you put a notice on the door not to be disturbed for 2 hours, and maybe you'll start off with prayer, and maybe you'll enter into praise, but you should finish up with adoration and worship. And Frida Hanbury Allen says, within the veil be this beloved thy portion, within the secret of thy Lord to dwell, beholding him until thy face is glory, thy life his love, thy lips his praise shall tell. Within the veil, for only as thou gazest upon the matchless beauty of his face, canst thou become a living revelation of his great heart of love, his untold grace. Within the veil, his fragrance poured upon thee, like the woman poured the ointment. Without the veil, that fragrance shed abroad. Within the veil, his hand shall tune the music which sounds on earth, the praises of thy God. Within the veil, thy spirit deeply anchored, thou walkest calm above a world of strife. Within the veil, thy soul with him united shall live on earth the resurrection life. She poured out the ointment. This man must have felt pretty bad, don't you think, watching all this go on? There's a table loaded with food. I don't know that he ever took a bite of food. There's no record of it in any of the stories. Maybe he wasted a fortune on it. Jesus wasn't wanting food, he wanted worship. God wants you to work yourself to death. No. What does it say? Kill yourself? Testify? It says worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Do the other, but don't do it unless your soul is bathed in him, unless you're anchored deeply in him, unless the fragrance of God is on you. No, I don't know that Jesus took a spot of anything to eat or drank anything. I think maybe this man was saying, you know what, I just about missed it and wasted everything. I just wish Jesus could see it my way. You know, I tried for about 20 years to get God to see things my way, and he wouldn't. So I had to give up and see things his way. Jesus didn't want food. How do you know? Well, I'll tell you what, the devil, there's a lot of things you could say about him, but he's a grade A student, you know. He knows the answers. He'll never ask you to do what you can't do. He'll never ask you to walk on water. He said to Jesus, get some of those rocks and turn them into bread. He knew he could do it. Look, if you want to know how valuable worship really is, the devil was prepared to give God the whole world if he'd worship him for 5 minutes. Does that make you realize how valuable worship is? You just fall down once and say, and worship me. The very fact he knelt would mean, I'm in subjection, your Lord, your Master. And if you just fall down and worship me for 5 minutes, I give you all the kingdoms of the world. And the devil, Jesus didn't say, they're not yours to give anyhow. They were his in one sense to give. He rules governments to a certain degree, and wicked systems. And yet Satan so wanted worship that he said, I'll give you the world. No, you can't. Jesus isn't going to turn stones into bread. You say, now that's one miracle he didn't do. Well, I think he did it. Where's the record? Well, one morning he called some disciples over the sea and he said, boys, come and eat. We used to sing a hymn in the old days, come and dine, the master called us, come and dine. There they met their heart's desire, bread and fish upon the fire. Do you think Jesus went shopping for fish? Do you think he knocked the baker up? It wasn't daylight. Do you think he knocked the baker up at 1 o'clock and said, hey, could you make a few hot buns right away because I want to give my disciple boys a treat. Poor boys, they're tired fishing all night. I think Jesus, this isn't in any book. It'll come up. Winky's going to put it down. But anyhow, I think that he put some stones on the floor and he just said, become bread, and they did. And he said to the devil, there, I'll do it when I want, not when you want. That's the way to get victory. You can do the right thing at the wrong time, but you never do the wrong thing at the right time. I think he made bread there just to snub the devil and laugh at the devil. But again, there's no evidence that Jesus ever took anything. All the dignitaries are there. I don't know how the disciples and others were there. And yet a little unnamed woman is the only one listed. She's listed in millions and millions of copies of the Word of God. Do you know what happened the week after? Crowds of people were sobbing and sang and they were pointing. I think there was just one woman who was really happy at the crucifixion. It wasn't the mother of Jesus necessarily. I think it was this Mary. She looked at those feet. They had a nail through them and blood running off them. And she said, to think last week I had those feet in my hands. I'm glad I did it. While the critics said, what's she wasting money? Jesus said, she's done it against my burial. The rough thing about this to me is this, that if you take the 26th chapter of Matthew and you read the story again, it puts another slant on it that to me is terrible. Because it says that he went into the house of Simon the leper. Does that do anything for you? You say he couldn't go into the house of Simon the leper. A man wasn't allowed to eat. That's right. There came a day when Simon went to his wife and said, darling, I've kept this away from you so long I can't. Look at my... Oh, she said, you've got leprosy. Don't use the towels. Don't touch the children. And he went to the temple and they pronounced him unclean. And he went to the gate of the city and they pronounced him unclean. And he lost citizenship and he lost fellowship and he lost every relationship. And he went up the road begging and crying, I'm unclean. And they'd throw him a coin, he was unclean. Well, what is he doing at home? Well, there's only one reason I know that he's at home is that one day he met Jesus and Jesus cleansed him because nobody else could heal leprosy. He runs back to the gate of the city and they say, we know you, Simon, you're a successful businessman, you're a leper. And he says, well, look, oh, you've got flesh like a baby, what beautiful hands. And he ran to the temple and the priest said, don't come and defile God's house. And he said, I can't defile it, look at my hands. And they said, oh, what beautiful hands. And he ran home and there was Rebecca and she looked through the lattice and said, don't come near, I know you want to see the children, don't come near. You're a leper. And he said, darling, I'm no leper. Oh, what beautiful hands. How did he get cleansed? I don't know any other way. There was no other way known to man that a man could be healed of leprosy except that Jesus healed him. That's incredible. If Jesus hadn't have healed him, he'd still be up there with bugs on him. His flesh would be dropping off. I've been in a leper colony and preached to lepers. I've seen men without ears, without cheeks. A man you could see down his throat because all the flesh was eaten off. You could see his workings. And in that tropical atmosphere, it stunk like a manure heap. It's one of the greatest meetings I was ever in. People without fingers and pus running off them because they had no medication were clapping their hands and singing, "My Jesus, I love thee, I know thou art mine." And I enjoy that better than any fancy choir all dressed up and cheap diamonds on doing this stuff on TV. A man who was a leper was cured and he forgot to worship Jesus? My God, I say reverently, how careless and forgetful, what ingratitude we could have. He was a leper. Well, in case you've forgotten, you're a leper too. Because in the Old Testament, leprosy is a type of sin. There's no cure for it. And one day Jesus went. Somebody said to me, "Don't shake hands with the leper," but I felt, all right, I'll take the risk. And I shook hands with that leper, all his stubby fingers. And I said, "I love you," and the tears rolled down. What cheeks he had. And the women there, beautiful women, with half a cheek or ears off or noses off and other things. And you saw leprosy working. Say, if Jesus hadn't stopped you somewhere on the road a year or two this morning, fellow, where might you have been right now? In hell? Or serving a life sentence? Woman, you might have had 3 or 4. We had girls in Teen Challenge how they looked as though they'd left school with as many as 3 illegitimate kids, and they couldn't tell you how many men they'd slept with. Whether they were black or yellow or red or black or white or what, they wouldn't know. They'd just lived that lousy life. But I tell you, one morning when we went into the chapel and they said, "Brother Ravenhill is going to talk this morning," and a little Puerto Rican stood up and said, "Let's sing the national anthem." I guess I told you this before, and I thought, national anthem, get out of here. But I didn't notice what he said. He said, "Let's sing our national anthem, not the national anthem." And they stood up and they began to sing. Do you know what they sang? There were about 30 or 40 young women on this side, beautiful girls, all clean now, prostitutes, yes. Not weekend prostitutes, they were second wives to some of your most famous film stars and ball players. And they were redeemed. And here were boys who murdered and raped and done every devilish thing. And so the little Puerto Rican, his teeth were flashing there, and he said, "Let's sing our song." And he struck it up. "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound." Wow, I was in tears before we got through the first stanza, and so were they. They knew the pit from which they'd been lifted. Isn't it amazing that sometimes, come on, let's be honest, you're so busy working for Him, you never touch Him during the day. We're trying to say, "Lord, I served you. No, I'm going to bed done tired. I can't even read my Bible. I'm too tired to pray." Well, that's not the way to go about it. Read Jeremiah and say how often that man of God rose early in the morning. Give him the dew of the morning when your mind is fresh and your body is fresh. He forgot to kiss Jesus. He forgot to wash his feet. He forgot to anoint his head. And I don't read he's got another chance. Briefly, that's not my best word, but let me say briefly. Somebody said, you say, finally, and you go on for another 20 minutes. I say, well, I learned that from the Apostle Paul. In his epistle, he says, finally, he writes 3 more chapters. You expect me to be better than Paul? There's one story a little more mysterious to me than this story. It's the story of the most favored woman on earth. There's a new controversy on now. It's in this present edition of Christianity Today, because the Pope, the new Pope, this nice boy, said recently that he wants to restore veneration to the Virgin Mary, and now there's a discussion about it. We ought to honor her. Well, I honor her. I call her the Blessed Virgin because the Scripture does. But if you tell me she's co-redemptrix, I'll ask you why she wasn't crucified with Jesus. She's not co-redemptrix with Jesus. You can't pray through the Virgin Mary. It's a lie. It's the biggest fraud the devil ever put on the earth is the Roman Church. Well, nobody said amen, but it's still true, so let's go on. This woman, privileged of all the women in the world to bear the Son of God. Isn't that something? The heaven of heavens cannot contain God, and he was pressed into the matrix of the Virgin Mary. God contracted to a span, incomprehensibly made man. And there was a big convention on, and people like conventions, so Joseph and Mary decided they would go, and they went. And they had a great time. Met all the in-laws and outlaws, and enjoyed the great preaching, enjoyed everything else. And then, of course, they had to go home. Oh, it was a majestic thing, you know, when they went up to the temple. They sang the hymns, the latter part of the Book of Psalms, which is the Jewish hymn book, of course. And the women went first, and the men went behind. They were doing what we sing. They were marching to Zion, the beautiful city of God. And the women sang a verse, and the men responded, and the women sang, and the men responded. The women went first in case the brigands came down the hills to molest them and destroy and so forth. And they went back the same, except, you see, like little streams joining up. The congregation got big, big, big when they were going, but as soon as they came out of Jerusalem, the crowd got less and less, and they began to filter off. And at night, Mary goes very tired, and her feet are aching, and finally she says, excuse me, have you seen my husband? Have you seen Joseph? Was her husband in the eyes of others? Oh yes, there he is, that tall, nice. Yeah, he's there. I like your husband very much. And she says, well, where are we going to sleep? Because there's no Holiday Inns and all those trimmings we have. No blacktop roads, just dirt, roughness, dust. Must have been something following 1 million people. You'd run your teeth over it. Your tongue over your teeth, you'd clean them. There'd be that much grit on your lips. Well, I don't know where we're staying, darling, but I'll tell you what, this is about the hottest day, and my feet are blistering. She says, well, mine are too. You had a bad day too. Did you get a drink at the well? No, I didn't. Boy, those people were very sanctified yesterday, very selfish today. They were elbowing at the well. You couldn't get a drink. I haven't had a drink since this morning. I haven't, and I'm tired. Well, how did Jesus get up? Oh, Mary, come on, don't fool. I'm too tired. You know he's been with you all day. With me? He's not been with me. He's been with you. He hasn't been with me. Well, I thought he was you. Do you know what it says? They, supposing he was in the company. That word supposing is used twice in the New Testament. When the woman went to the garden and she heard somebody moving, and she supposed he was the gardener. So she supposed Jesus wasn't there when he was there. They supposed Jesus was there and he wasn't there. We suppose he's in the company. Well, what should we do? Well, what do you think she did? She said, serves him right. I've told him many times not to go off here and there. And let's go to sleep, Joseph. I suggest she cried herself to sleep that night. After all, if you lost a 12-year-old boy, and there were so many burglars and thieves and wild animals, will you go to sleep? She cried herself to sleep, and they got back to Jerusalem. And again she cried herself to sleep. They searched everywhere and couldn't find him. Oh, maybe he's at the pool of Siloam. He likes to watch the fish in the pool. He wasn't there. Maybe he's still down at the bazaar. He loved to see those men selling pearls. No, he wasn't there. And finally in despair they said, well, where can he be? Isn't it amazing that they lost Jesus right after they'd been to a great convention, a great religious feast? We lose him sometime because God speaks to your heart. There's blessing on your heart. And you go outside the sanctuary as a theatre you've left or something, and you talk and talk, and you dissipate the blessing God put there. There are times I think we ought to walk home and just quietly, not even speak, maybe husband and wife, and just get still and say, Lord, sink this deep into my heart so I'll never need to learn that lesson again. The brigands came down the hills to molest them and destroy and so forth. And they went back the same, except, you see, like little streams joining up. The congregation got big, big, big. when they were going, but as soon as they came out of Jerusalem, the crowd got less and less, and they began to filter off. And at night, Mary goes very tired, and her feet are aching, and finally she says, excuse me, have you seen my husband? Have you seen Joseph? Was her husband in the eyes of others. Oh, yes, there he is, that tall, nice. Yeah, he's there. I like your husband very much. And she says, well, where are we going to sleep? Because there's no Holiday Inns and all those trimmings we have. No blacktop roads, just dirt, roughness, dust. Must have been something following 1 million people. You'd run your teeth over it. Your tongue over your teeth, you'd clean them. There'd be that much grit on your lips. Well, I don't know where we're staying, darling, but I'll tell you what, this is about the hottest day, and my feet are blistering. She says, well, mine are too. You had a bad day too. Did you get a drink at the well? No, I didn't. Boy, those people were very sanctified yesterday, very selfish today. They were elbowing at the well. You couldn't get a drink. I haven't had a drink since this morning. I haven't, and I'm tired. Well, how did Jesus get up? Oh, Mary, come on, don't fool. I'm too tired. You know he's been with you all day. With me? He's not been with me. He's been with you. He hasn't been with me. Well, I thought he was you. Do you know what it says? They, supposing he was in the company. That word supposing is used twice in the New Testament. When the woman went to the garden and she heard somebody moving, and she supposed he was the gardener. So she supposed Jesus wasn't there when he was there. They supposed Jesus was there and he wasn't there. We suppose he's in the company. So what should we do? Well, what do you think she'd do? She said, serves him right. I've told him many times not to go off here and there. And let's go to sleep, Joseph. I suggest she cried herself to sleep that night. After all, if you lost a 12-year-old boy and there were so many burglars and thieves and wild animals, will you go to sleep? She cried herself to sleep. And they got back to Jerusalem. And again she cried herself to sleep. They searched everywhere and couldn't find him. Oh, maybe he's at the pool of Siloam. He likes to watch the fish in the pool. He wasn't there. Maybe he's still down at the bazaar. He loved to see those men selling pearls. No, he wasn't there. And finally in despair they said, well, where can he be? Isn't it amazing that they lost Jesus right after they'd been to a great convention, a great religious feast? We lose him sometime because God speaks to your heart. There's blessing on your heart. And you go outside the sanctuary as a theatre you've left or something, and you talk, and you dissipate the blessing God put there. There are times I think we ought to walk home and just quietly, not even speak, maybe husband and wife, and just get still and say, Lord, sink this deep into my heart so I'll never need to learn that lesson again. And they searched and they couldn't find him. And finally they said, well, we'll search the temple. It was a vast place. And they couldn't find him. And then they said, finally, there's a room there. Yes, but only the chief rabbis and the dignitaries go there. We can't go there. But love gets desperate. And maybe Joseph opened the door and he said, Mary. There he is. What was he doing? Was he in the pulpit? Giving a lecture on Daniel, the left foot on Daniel's image, the middle toe? This is the explanation. Was he preaching prophecy? No. He wasn't doing anything like that. What was he doing? He was doing what any healthy 12-year-old boy would do. He was asking questions. And they run up again and say, don't you care about us? Well, it sounds like the men on the sea. Remember when the boat lashed the boat? It looked as though they were... I thought the disciples loved him so much they'd have shaken him and said, Master, hurry, you're going to drown. But they said, don't you care that we perish? Wasn't that lovely? Wonder he didn't say, you stupid people, I've taught you 100 lessons and you still think of number one first. Carest thou not that we perish? Hey, what are you doing? Is this your gratitude for us? We thought you were tears. We've been heartbroken. And here you are sitting in the temple asking questions. Oh, his answer was beautiful, wasn't it? When he said, well, don't you think I should be about my Father's business? I wonder if that's the first time he testified. I wonder if that's the first moment he realized what his mission on earth really was. Do you think it was, Ed? You're not sure. Tim, what do you think? He doesn't know either, so that's very helpful. Thanks. But I give my contribution. I'm not sure either. But maybe it had dawned on him. Maybe while he was still in the sanctuary, God had said to him, this is where it all begins, at 12 years of age. And from there, for another 20 years, he was locked up in silence and locked up in stillness. And every great man, it seems to me, that God has used here in the Word of God, he had to be sent to an Isle of Patmos. The greatest brain the world ever had, I think, was the Apostle Paul, after Jesus himself, and he had 3 years in the wilderness. And John went to the Isle of Patmos, and Moses learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, it says there in the 7th chapter of the Acts of the Apostles. He was a scholar, he was brilliant. How do you know? Because he was learning all the wisdom of the Egyptians, that's why. And it says he was mighty in word. It doesn't say he was an orator, because he stammered, but he was mighty in word. He made laws before he got the 10 Commandments. And when he was brilliant and cultured, and armies bowed down to him, and everybody revered him, God sliced his life. After all, he lived in 340s, first 40 years. He lived in the palace as a king, as a prince. The second 40 years is in the school of silence, and the third 40. God took him up at 80 years of age. Can you find me a man that's come to spiritual greatness that hasn't lived in isolation? Just one thing, I remember going in one day, Dr. Tozer got some books, and he never put them on shelves this way, he stood them up this way because he couldn't bother to read them. And I said to him, I was in London last week talking to Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones in Westminster Chapel, and he sent his greetings to you, and he said that your book, The Pursuit of God, will be living when most modern writing, theological writing in America has perished. And he said, Len, be pointed like that. His office, one thing I don't like about my office, it's too small. My other office was larger. I feel it cramps me a bit. But anyhow, you could almost do this in Dr. Tozer's office and touch the walls. It was so small. But he looked at it and he said, Len, that book, The Pursuit of God, is the distilled wisdom that God gave me for 25 years in this office. I've never been out of it. You've never what? I've never had a vacation in 25 years. I've listened and listened and listened to God. And what God has taught me, he said, I put it down there in that book. Oh, it's easy to give God things when they're cheap. Oh, yes, I like to read a book. As a matter of fact, I play tapes going to work and have a great time. Well, that's all right, but listen, you can play tapes from here to ends of the earth. It won't satisfy the Lord. It may satisfy you. He wants you to worship Him in spirit and in truth. He wants you to put everything else out, and it will cost something. She brought a small box, and I finish with this, but I'll tell you what she did. She brought it while he was living, just before he died. And I'm glad it mentions that it was £1. Do you know why? Because after he died, you'd have seen two men going up a hill with a staff, and on it they had a great big bag swinging, and it had exactly 100 pounds of that same ointment brought by Nicodemus. Some have estimated it was worth more than $1 million. He was going up to that costly mausoleum, or whatever you want to call it, there they were going to bury Jesus, because he made his grave with the rich in his death too. And these two men were going up the hill with 100-pound weight of the same ointment that woman brought £1 of. And you know what? That £1 of ointment meant much more to Jesus than the 100 pounds. Why? Because he was living when he got it. People have been shocked, disgusted, argued with me when I said, look, if you leave $1 million to a missionary group or agape, leave it to agape, okay. When you die, God won't give you 10 cents for it at the judgment seat. He won't? No. How do you know? Well, here's a rich man, let's say here he is in a lovely casket, and he's left $1 million, and we're all glad he's left $1 million to the Salvation Army, and $1 million to David Wilson, $1 million to agape. And just before I put the lid down, I want you all to come and look at him. And I want you to keep one scripture in mind when you cut. Remember, he's left $3 million for these three distinctive groups. Now, as you come and look at him, he's embalmed, he's got a lovely $100,000 suit or something, or a jewel around his neck. Just look at him. And as you look at him, I want you to remember this scripture. The Lord loveth what? A what? He doesn't look too cheerful to me. Maybe just change it in the Amplified. I'd better look. I don't know whether they have or not, but the Lord loveth a cheerful giver. That man would still have his $1 million. He didn't give it. Death took it from him. He met a bandit on the road called Death who said, get out. Put him out like a light. 1 pound of ointment while she was living. Jesus says, I've got more out of this than all your fancy show and all the celebrities here and everything. She has ministered unto me. I can feel her feet. I can smell the fragrance. I can see the love she laid her glory there. She's got hold of the whole thing. Because he said, didn't he, you don't worship in Jerusalem. We Christians don't have to go to Rome. We don't have to go to Mecca. The Irish quote every day we go to prayer. We used to pray there a lot. And one man used to quote every time we prayed, and we prayed on earth. There's no floor in the hut, just dropped a shell in a field, and they knelt in the grass and knelt in the dirt. And sometimes the water would run through like that. But he used to quote the same old thing, where'er we seek thee, thou art found, and every place is hallowed ground. The disappointed Christ, thou gavest me no water, thou gavest me no oil, thou gavest me no kiss. We need to ask him, I need to ask him, and you need to ask him, how we may learn to worship him in spirit and in truth.